Hey guys, Joshua Peterson Electric. Most of you guys know me or you follow me. It's March 2020. Been doing my videos for about 10 years now. But I do a lot of interesting videos to help you guys out. And so when I see a nugget, I'll try to do one for you. This one was on, the complaint over the phone was my home is 7 years old. I got 4 separate arc faults tripping in a townhome. He only had 7 or 6 arc faults. So, and he said it did it when the electric range was turned on the warmer burner. And I was like, whoa, 7-year-old or 6-year-old home with that going on. So it took us about 2 hours to diagnose. Normally I'm in and out in about 20 to 30 minutes because I'm pretty savvy at this. But what I found was this, that he didn't tell me. He had gotten the Hue Philips smart bulbs, and they were listening and programmed to Alexa. And he had them in the bedroom, the living room, and the kitchen. I didn't have any issue with some of those lamps that were in the area of the living room because the sockets looked clean. And they were very clean on the inside, okay? But the pendants had gotten hot for some reason within 6 years. I think they put too high a wattage bulbs, and that socket in the center was turning black. So when you create that kind of resistance, it creates heat, and heat will then therefore trip a thermal on that arc fault, and it tripped. And beyond that, just the typical bulb itself with that little ballast and the smart components inside, I would like to break one open sometime, and I will. But in that Philips bulb, normal LED doesn't run that hot. You can grab it, but these were so hot I barely could touch it. And that means I'm getting about 200 to 250 degrees when I can feel it on my hand. So, and that's normal for them to run like that. But what I realized is that when the arc fault was tripping in the kitchen, it was because of that. So I took those bulbs out, put them in a bathroom, and I knew it had an arc fault in there. It didn't trip. So I cleaned out the sockets and I put in normal incandescents or some LEDs. It didn't trip. But it finally did get a trip, so I replaced the arc fault downstairs, which is not normal that I have to, but it must have been tripped so many times that it started to affect the breaker. So don't think that just a 6-year-old arc fault will never have an issue. It is a Siemens, and I know they don't have a lot of issues, but they can still trip, especially if they've been tripping too much as a nuisance. Maybe they need to go away. But when I realized the other circuit next to it in the living room was tripping too, so I started, well, those lamps are on that other circuit, so it's dealing with circuit 19 and 17. So I'm looking over there, and I'm thinking, well, there's something in there, and the lamps were clean. So I looked at the cord on the lamps, it was fine. They were new lamps. Then I realized he's got his little command center over there with all of his computers. And he's got surge strips and all these wires all over the place. And they're all newer computers and the drives, but I could tell that that might have been irritating the circuit. So he was already ahead of me. He took an extension cord, plugged into the bathroom outlet that was a non-arc fault at 20 amp. And he said, Josh, it seemed to go away. So I can't do much about that for him on that unless he moves his command center into the bathroom. But other than that, sometimes the arc faults can do that. But we replaced the arc fault and it quit tripping. Interesting enough, though, I'm not saying the Philips Hue have issues with these smart bulbs, but you got to pay attention to that. They do run hot, and that can make a socket. If the socket's already bad, it's going to trip. As far as what was happening with the range, when I went ahead and turned on, and it's not a freestanding range, but when I turned it on, that warmer, I traced through the schematic on the back of that board, and the pilot light takes 120 volts straight to the neutral. But what happened is when I pulled out the range and I pulled off the back, I was looking for arc marks on that metal, turned off the breaker, pulled off the plug, right? There was nothing. And so as an old appliance tech 20 some years ago, I was looking for all the things I was trained in. But what I did notice is that they put the range on top of the cord, that 6'4" wire, and it was pinching it and suffocating it. So it literally had a big divot in it. Once I took that out and straightened it out, and then I did continuity check and a voltage test, cord was fine. Plugged it back in, shoved it in. But some reason though, when I turned on that one burner, and it was interesting, not the others, it is a 240 volt warmer burner, but that neutral feeding backwards tripped the arc fault. I personally think that was a coincidental thing though, and he was starting to see stuff going on. Were we able to tell him, just cancel your appointment on your new range and see how it goes, because it was only 6 years old. Anyways, guys, so just always think out of the box. Sometimes these things are not as coincidental as you think, and there's a piece of information the customer's not telling you, so ask a lot of questions. But when you do that, you might be able to diversify what's going on. But when you've got 4 breakers tripping that are all 6 years old in all these rooms, you start to wonder, is it a vacuum cleaner? That's where you move something and you plug in, and it wasn't his vacuum. Thanks, guys, for joining us. Have a good one.